It's your boy Superman 2000 back in the fight chair with a fresh haircut, which I did myself, of course. It's pretty easy. Get the clipper, zip, 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 zip. These spots, eating food I'm allergic to, but I can't help it. You only live once, and I love me some lobster and I love some shrimp, man. It was like all you can eat seafood buffet. Delicious. Anyhow, let me put my sportscaster voice on so that you may understand me. Ha ha. This video here is why I still think Jose Aldo, brilliant guy. But I'll get back to that. Let's put a pin in that and let me talk about this. So George St Pierre is going to have to take the UFC to court to get free from his contract because they're saying that there's no breach. They did extend an offer for him to fight Robbie Lawler, but he's saying that Robbie Lawler was injured and off the list, so he knew that he wouldn't be returning to action immediately. And because he was acting in good faith and they were not acting in good faith, they presented him with an opportunity that was impossible to get. That may have caused it. That's where the breach resulted. So here's the deal. With the UFC contracts, which I've read before in our previous video, there's no time is of the essence clause in these contracts. Meaning, time is of the essence mean that, hey, this is the deadline. This is the deadline that you have to meet. Here is a stipulation to meeting that deadline. If you don't meet that deadline because it's essential and time is of the essence, then the contract will expire. You forfeit all rights to whatever you're supposed to be selling or buying or trading. There's none of that in the UFC contract, which means that the UFC, they could wait 20 years and do nothing and still claim to have a fighter on a contract if the fighter leaves the UFC without fighting out his full contract. Now, at the time GSP left, he may have had, I'm not sure, maybe one or two fights left in his contract. So the UFC is saying, hey, he owes us those two fights because it's in the contract that if the fighter is injured or retires, that once they become active or return to any kind of physical active duty in mixed martial arts, we are entitled to collect on those two fights. GSP saying, "Hey, fine. I was willing to give those two fights, but you guys made it impossible for me to fulfill my contractual obligations, and by you impeding that, you actually breached the contract." Fine. I'm not a so they'll hash it out in court. Not a lawyer, but somewhere in one of my MBA courses, this was one of these discussions that we had back and forth. Memory serves right. That's how it went. But nonetheless, here's the breakdown. This if the UFC wants to fight GSP in court, it seems to me it's gonna wind up being a Rampage Jackson situation where they drag it out. They bury him in paperwork, bury him in legal briefs, file all types of documents, and make this court case drag out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Wear him down financially, keep him from fighting so he can't make a living while no money coming in but money is going out. That wear him down financially. And Randy Couture had the same issue. He spent well over $500,000 battling the UFC. And he had to wind up just settling and walking away. And he came away with a victory, and the UFC came away with a victory. So it worked out. There was a compromise down the middle. But for GFC, for GSP, it seems like the UFC is going to time up in legal paperwork, keep any other organization from getting him to fight, so they don't lose points, and just lock him down as their property. So right now, I think the best bet for him is to create a situation and then force them to negotiate, force them to get him back to the table by opening up the wallets, like what Jose Aldo did. Jose Aldo said, "Hey, the talks are moving in the right direction," which means, hey, Dana White's got the wallet and he's putting some money on the table. But I would hate to see this turn into a situation where GSP is tied up in court and cannot fight. As a fan, I want to see him back in action. And personally, after Eddie Alvarez finished beating Conor McGregor, I would like to see, Conor McGregor fight Jose Aldo, and then afterwards fight GS. I mean, I would love to see that because GSP, he's an animal. He's the real deal. He doesn't play any games. In fact, he was actually training because he thought he would be on the Madison Square Garden card. So he was actually training all that time while the negotiations were going back and forth. If you have time, go and look at Ariel Awani's channel and you see the interview that GSP did with Ariel Awani in terms of him coming back. And as far as uh, Dana White kept saying that GSP doesn't have it in him, he's not sure, GSP isn't motivated. This is how slimy Dana White is. Dana White was actually saying those things and lying to the public while behind closed doors negotiating with GSP about his return. Now, the UFC said they couldn't give GSP the kind of money he wanted because they said it would take them, they had to spend a lot of money to reintroduce George St. Pierre to the new fans and to marketing. But I'm like, hey, who isn't an MMA fan that does not know who GSP is? Come on. Everybody who knows who George St. Pierre is. He was even in the Avengers movie where he fought Captain America. You saw that scene, right? That I'll talk about that later. But that was good when he blew up the place with Captain America and the girl was working. That fight scene was I'm talking too fast, so my accent's throwing you off. But GSP, everybody know him. If you're an MMA fan, you know who that is. And if he's on the card, a true hardcore MMA fan is gonna talk about him to a newbie, a rookie, and that rookie's gonna say, "Wow, that's who GSP is. That's amazing. Oh, blah 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 blah. I've got to see him fight. All his fights are on YouTube. He's got more fights on YouTube than Conor McGregor. Come on, that guy's a legend. Everybody know who GSP is. So I'm not buying that nonsense. I think that when you're in the process of negotiating and buying something, one of the dirty tactics that people use is to talk the value of that thing down to other people. It's like two guys or three guys walk into, I'm not gonna say a bar. That's so cliche. So three guys walk into a restaurant. The beautiful woman there, and one guy thinks to himself, "That's a beautiful woman. She's very attractive. She's single. She's open-minded. She's friendly." So she invite them over. They're having conversation. Then she leaves the table. So she'll be right back. She has some friends she's gonna meet. Say hi to. So one guy says, "Hey, if I say this girl is ugly to this other guy, then maybe he won't talk to her. Maybe I'll get the chance to talk to her." Then the other guy says to himself, "If I say this girl is pretty, then maybe the other guys will want her. Then I won't get to talk to her. So I'm gonna say she's ugly and she's not my type and she's not any of our types. Let's just go. Then when everyone leaves the table, I'll double back and talk to her." That's the kind of deal. So basically, Dana White was talking on the value of George St. Pierre commitment to the sport, the value of him as a fighter, to ward off anybody else that might be interested in cutting a deal with him about his comeback, right? So that's the kind of tactic that he was using while behind closed door negotiating with him for his return. Now you gotta give GSP some credit because he didn't say anything during that negotiation period because maybe he didn't want the deal to fall apart. But afterwards he spoke to Ariel Awani, did a live interview, and he just let it all hang out. After everything was over and he was declared a free agent by his attorney, that was when he came out. So, you see, so he did everything mindfully and respectfully of the UFC, but not Dana White. That's how slimy this guy is. My opinion, don't sue me. Anyhow, UFC, I know you guys getting crazy, so it's my opinion. Just don't sue me, all right? So anyhow, so I think the best bet for GSP to do right now is either A, if you don't get the kind of money you want from the UFC, you're already making money where you are, you already have good money, just sit it out and relax. And then when they get desperate enough, they'll come knocking. Because right now the UFC needs GSP more than GSP needs the UFC. Because what they've done actually is put all their eggs in the Conor McGregor basket. That basket is just, it can only last but so long. You know, and Ronda Rousey, she's coming back. I'd love a video about her return next. But the whole point I'm making is that for GSP, I'm figuring his best bet right now, if the UFC want to take him to court and the time up, like what Bellator did to Rampage Jackson, and Rampage Jackson wind up having just to go back to Bellator to fight, but he did make more money and get a better deal. The best bet for GSP right now is try to avoid court costs, because the UFC, they have more money than he does. They'll bury him. So if I was him, I go back, fight the fights out or whatever. Either that, or just hold up for the money I want, because the UFC will pay him the money he wants eventually, because the Conor McGregor train can only run for about so long. That's my 2 cents from the fight here, guys. Comment and let me know what you think. Peace out.